Being 6:30 on Tuesday, December 11, 2018, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order and ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty. The first item on the agenda is for us to enter into an executive session, but since we have so many guests this evening, and it's wonderful, usually we're sitting here all alone. Unless the committee objects, I am going to bump that down to later on in the agenda, prior to item F and new business. And so the next item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve our November 27, 2018 minutes.
So moved. Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Good evening, Mrs. Gogan. We're doing fine so far. Hold on, Mrs. Gogan. I don't believe your microphone is on.
Thank you, John.
Either that or John is twitching dramatically.
It wasn't on. I'll start again. I would like to inform the school committee that we have hired Brandon Wade as a new paraprofessional at the Park Ave Elementary School. I'd like to also let you know about our most recent district safety meeting. We are working in collaboration with many community members, Mafre being one of them, Boston Children's Hospital being another, North Village being another, the police, the fire, the EMS. We're hoping to get our PTO and more involved in creating a new safety event that will be happening here on May 18th. So far, we have locked up the go-karts with UMass Memorial to show kids what it's like to drink and drive. And we are trying to build a community-wide free fair to teach everyone a little bit about safety. Everyone's pretty excited about working together. It will be something new. We hope we can pull this off, and I will keep you posted on that. And tonight we do have a full house. I'm going to start by sharing some good news and introducing a Bartlett High School student named Tyler Adolfo. Tyler, would you like to come up and join us? Tyler recently participated in a Lions Club speech competition and won on December 3rd. And he is advancing to the regionals at Anna Marie College. And he can't read his speech because it will be breaking the rules, but Tyler's here to tell us a little bit about this competition.
So I think you might have to turn that on, or John will yell at me. It is?
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I had the excellent opportunity of representing Bartlett at the annual Lions Club speech competition. I've advanced past the first two stages, the club level and the zone, and next up would be the regionals. It's an excellent opportunity. I've always enjoyed talking, and speech competitions are a great way to go on a rant without getting in trouble, and so I've taken advantage of it. I've been able to do well, partly because of what the prompt is. It's on integrity, what does it look like? And that's a topic I had a lot of passion writing for, and I was able to distinguish myself from the other competitors at the early stages by having it memorized at that level. And thankful to my coaches, Mrs. Nassis and Mrs. Hensel did a lot of preparation with me, giving me feedback on things that I could improve. Mr. Carney also gave me a lot of advice on, emotion and presentation. And there's just so many different elements from Bartlett in general that have been involved in preparing for it, including past student Shayna Kubilis, who went several rounds through it in the past. And so I'm looking forward to continuing on with it and do the best that I can.
So without breaking the rules, in a Reader's Digest version, what does integrity look like?
Well, integrity is the compass of our character. It's a noble idea that transcends race, class, and nation. It doesn't matter what economic background you come from, what demographic that you are derived. It's something that we can all relate to. It is the epitome of character. And a lot of my speech centered around some personal experiences with success on mock trial and competitions that I've lost, because I've done poetry out loud as well before. I made it to the state semifinals and I lost, but I've learned a lot from it and it was a good experience. So I can't go into like specifics of what we talked about, because ironically that probably would be not really.
A violation of integrity? So it's a really dumb question on my part.
No, not at all.
But let me just say on behalf, does the committee have any questions or comments? I just want to say on behalf of the entire committee, thank you for being another wonderful example of the fantastic kids that we have in our district. Did you give a super team speech a couple years ago?
I did.
And they're all fantastic. And I usually get in trouble when I try to point one out over the other, but
I'm very proud that it is probably the most cringeworthy speech in the history of Bartlett Super Team.
I thought it was fantastic. So whatever's that worth, maybe you and I think alike at times, but it was excellent, and I do recall
Thank
that
you.
speech. So again, good luck as you continue with this process, and I know the wonderful staff at Bartlett are going to give you additional help. And again, you make us all very proud as all the fine students, especially the ones we have this evening. So good luck.
Thank you
Congratulations, Tyler.
so much.
Oh, yes. Can we take a picture, Tyler? Let's get your teachers in it. Come on. I didn't get you guys. Tyler, good job. Nice job. We have some more students here tonight. We have the Farm to School Committee, parts of the Farm to School Committee. We have Julia and Allison and Mrs. Nyland and Mrs. Hoenig. And they have recently presented at a statewide conference. And they're going to give us a little bit of information about what they shared at the statewide conference. We're so proud of the students here. We really are.
So what we're going to do is give an abbreviated version of the presentation that we gave to, at the statewide Farm to School Conference last week. So I led off saying we are very excited to be here presenting to you the extraordinary peer-to-peer marketing campaign that our Bartlett High School Farm to School Committee has been implementing for the past 2 years. This project is a product of true collaboration, and we are eager to share it with you. Big thanks to Mr. Nicky for introducing the food service family to the Bartlett Business Department. That was the beginning of a successful partnership involving local food and creative ideas. We were invited to present at the Mass Farm to School State Conference last week, and here to show you an abbreviated version of our slideshow is Mrs. Hoenig and some of her Farm to School Committee members.
So this was, oops, I'll just pass you. This was our inaugural Farm to School Committee, 10 students who have all graduated and moved on to college. This phenomenal committee brainstormed and created 6 interactive promotions last year that involved serving Harvest of the Month food items, as well as disseminating information about the items they were showcasing. Rainbow carrots, apples, squash, cheese, potatoes, and finally strawberries. We are now in year 2 of Farm to School, and I am no longer required to recruit students for this project. They are approaching me with new ideas and a willingness to become part of this exciting organization. With our expanding and better than ever Farm to School program, I present to you Julia Potawani, a senior at Bartlett High School who aspires to attend UMass Amherst as a hospitality major.
So, as our committee embarks upon our 2nd year, we have initiated a few changes. The first involves our promotional pieces, which are now being drawn by one of our own committee members, Liep Kem. Last year, Ruby Lee, who now attends Notre Dame, designed our posters using computer-generated images and text. The Farm to School program allowed Ruby to investigate graphic design and promoted her to major in this program. Now, Allison Grimsky, another senior at Bartlett who plans to attend Delaware Valley University in Pennsylvania for zoo science, will expand upon some additional improvements.
As these slides illustrate, our Farm to School members are not only promoting local produce, we are now prepping and preparing the harvest of the month in the school cafeteria. In October, we hand dipped over 500 caramel apples, and believe me, 500 wasn't enough. In November, we made delicious homemade pita chips and avocado kale dip. And just today, we baked carrot cake from scratch, and we plan on serving it tomorrow in the cafeteria, along with cups of hot cocoa for our December Harvest of the Month promotion.
With a little review of what we have accomplished so far, this was our first promotion of the 2018 school year, caprese salad made with both traditional and heirloom tomatoes. Not only do we have a new mascot, Chef Lorenzo, but we discovered that the camaraderie of the new Farm to School Committee was already in full swing. Our October promotion featured caramel apples as well as a surprise appearance by Apple Patty, the owner of Charlton Orchards. This successful event was highlighted with a carnival theme, quizzes, balloons, and even a Ferris wheel.
November was a very busy month, reinforcing the cooperative learning style the Farm to School has so successfully illustrated. We not only served kale and avocado dip, we designed and assembled capes for each committee member to wear so the student body could see just how super kale is.
Probably the most unique part of this year's Farm to School program was the opportunity we were afforded a few weeks ago. 8 students from Bartlett, 4 from Mrs. Haynes' business class, and 4 from Mrs. Colson's AP Environmental Science class were invited to tour 2 seafood processing plants in Boston as part of the Seafood for Schools program.
Managers and chefs at Red's Best and North Coast Seafood showed us the workings inside these state-of-the-art facilities, teaching us about sustainable fishing and serving us local seafood that will hopefully be offered in our district someday. The menu consists of fish tacos, salmon cakes, and if you look at the top left picture, that's me trying my first raw oyster. And let's just say it was really salty.
Looking to the future of Farm to School, our collaboration on the seafood field trip with the environmental science class is just the beginning. A new curriculum for the Farm to School program is being developed, which will encompass various activities. Number 1, ongoing in-school promotions aimed at increasing student engagement and knowledge of what we are consuming. And number 2, an outdoor student-led production garden with herbs and hopefully vegetables. In addition, the math department has already expressed interest in assisting us with the drafting and designing of this project. Furthermore, we hope to secure a grant that is being offered in the spring by Massachusetts Agriculture in the Classroom. The students on the Farm to School Committee will take part in the grant writing process.
The other area we would like to focus a little more on in year 2 is sustainability. So working with Mrs. Colson's AP Environmental Science class, the students are planning a feasibility study to compare the advantages and disadvantages of bringing the Bartlett High School dishwasher back online, both from an environmental and a cost perspective. And at the conference, I just closed by saying, I'll just say the same thing, that school food can often seem very punitive from the nutrition side. There's all these rules about you have to take that, you can't take more than 2 of that. So what I wanted was to bring a balance and to create an atmosphere of community and discovery around meal sharing, and that is exactly what we've been able to do with the Harvest of the Month promotions with this amazing group of students. So I know we're all excited to see where we go from here. Thank you.
You did a great job, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend your presentation at the state conference, but I heard all about it, and I'm very grateful for you guys to come here. I can attest to their delicious food. I ate the caramel apple, hoping to get by and have the carrot cake tomorrow. You guys keep up the good work. I love that this is expanding into all other departments, science and math, and really it can go wherever we develop it. So keep up the great work, you guys, and thank you so much for coming.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Mrs. Gogan followed up or mentioned It's pretty cool when you can combine food service, marketing business, environmental science, and possibly math. I think that's a pretty unique curriculum structure.
And that's really how students learn. And so I really do believe we are making some substantial changes in the Webster Public Schools. We want experiential learning opportunities. That's how we all learn. You remember things when you do them. You make those connections. And you can tell by the artwork, by what you're putting together, how you're presenting the material, that everybody's being creative and innovative. And learning happens when people are innovative and creative, and we can't lose that. So kudos to all of you, and keep up the good work.
And again, just thank you to Julia and Allison. I know you guys are representing your classmates, and as I just mentioned to Tyler, once again, you represent what is the best in Bartlett and what is the best in our school district. So I heard the presentation. It was up in Fitchburg or Leominster.
Leominster.
Went very well. And thank you for joining us tonight, and congratulations.
Bravo. Yes, picture. Imagine that I came here and I had no idea how to tweet.
Now you can't see.
I can't see Mary Ann. Okay. Oh, nice.
See?
Very nice. Thank you, guys. Good job. Thank you. Okay. On my report, I do want to fill the school committee in that we had a very productive half-day professional development. We had shared the agendas with you. We had Looney consultants come in. We had safety care training. We had people working on EWIS and nurses working on grants. There's a wide variety of things that happened on that half day. I do want to let you know that the case conference was very good that I attended with some of our central office staff. John Safier from Research for Better Teaching presented and spoke a little bit about high expectations for students and school culture, and I think it was very relevant to what's going on here. Coincidentally, John Safier had been here years ago and has done some training with our teachers, and he took a liking to our group, and we were in the workshop with over 300 people, and he made a point to pull Point Webster out and talk a little bit about Webster at both of his sessions. So that was great. At the case conference, I also had the opportunity to attend a DESE workshop put on by Rob Curtin, who once again went over the new accountability system. And I know when we rolled out the MCAS at the beginning of the year, I was just learning the system. I do want to clarify that the lowest 25% of students in math, ELA, and science do count in the all students category for 50%, and then they do count again in the lowest performing for 50%. So basically they're counting a little bit of about 60-something%. So the Department of Education is really looking to make their new accountability system more readable and understandable. So I do anticipate that there'll be some changes in the next coming year with some of those pieces. I have some great news to share with you, and I would like to let you know that we have been awarded the Turnaround Assistance Grant for Park Avenue for the second year in the tune of $200,000, and we have been awarded the turnaround grant for the first year for the Bartlett High School for $25,000. Our turnaround assistance grant will help us with turnaround practices, which are focused on shared distributive leadership and explicit instructional practices and school climate and culture. And I'd like to ask Curriculum Director Janice Daniels to speak a little bit about that. And I would like to publicly thank Janice Daniels for her diligence in writing the grants in this district. And I'm going to embarrass you and say, once again, we were notified that the grants that we have submitted were the best. They were the first ones received, and you don't get those kind of compliments from the Department of Education very frequently. So kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it's done, and I'm so happy for the next one to come. I just want to kind of give you a little bit of background review of this grant. It is a federal Title I school improvement reservation grant. And it's really for schools who are identified under the Massachusetts Accountability System for focus and/or targeted support. So I'm going to start off with Bartlett, and I have to say, these grants are very in-depth and long, and I could sit in my office all day long, but I would not get where, I wouldn't be able to create this grant without the work and help of the principals. So oftentimes I will be the thorn in their side, picking their brains, what do you want to do, what's your vision, and making it flow with the parameters of the grant. I don't think I did that to you, Peter, but did I? No.
You were totally wonderful.
So it's a big collaboration with the principals and other teams too. We have to include teachers and other stakeholders. So Bartlett's grant was for a pre-planning and planning grant. They're going to start the process of writing their big turnaround plan that's coming in the future. So they're awarded $25,000 to, and the majority of it does go toward teacher stipends. And just briefly, well, okay, so what type of stipends are we talking about? Teachers, we have so much for each of these activities. The teacher stipends would be going for helping them to unpack the AIR report. That's that big report the company comes in, does observations, surveys, and puts this big, wonderful report, which then the people who write the plan, the turnaround plan, the principal and all the teachers and everybody else will take that information and use it to drive in the writing of the plan. Then we also have stipends to help write the plan. So we usually will not do it during school time. We don't want to take teachers out of the classroom, so it's oftentimes outside of outside of school. We also have stipends for some, we held a summer institute for the instructional leadership team. Our first one was this past summer, so we made sure that it's a real important activity for the principal to build his team. So we love to bring that back for year 2. And so we put stipends for the teachers on that. We have several teachers at Bartlett that are part of the Inclusive Tier 1 Academy, and they've been tasked with developing an action plan through this grant to utilize strategies from their training to help drive and direct the writing of the big turnaround plan. I'm saying that turnaround plan a lot.
Yes.
We also will have some subcommittee work to review current strategies and update plan to immediately and effectively improve student absenteeism, graduation rates, dropout rates, and credit recovery. There will be just a whole bunch of subcommittees taking a laser-like focus looking at, well, how do we make those improvements in those areas. We also have money put towards consultants. We're going to have Jessica Minahan in, and she really will help the staff and administration to gain a vision and deeper understanding for all learners. Just moving along, we have some money being put towards the iReady diagnostic assessment from Curriculum Associates. So that will be utilized for school year, next school year, and then the years after, the local budget will need to pick that up. So that ends Bartlett's, just a brief description, and then let's move into Park Ave. Park Ave's grant is the big $200,000. That's for year 2. It really is to help with the implementation of their turnaround plan that we submitted. Well, we wrote it last spring, and it was approved in the summer. It's a very long process. So yay, we got the money. That money will also be used toward teacher stipends for grade level leaders, which are currently happening this year. That will be paid through this fund. And after this year, we're now budgeting into the local budget for those positions. The grade level leaders will be part of the 2-day summer institute. Again, this is district-wide. We also have stipend money we're hoping to have a 2-day Saturday. Sometimes we have Saturday professional development academies that really work well. We pay teachers to come in for, 8 to 12 in the morning. And this particular one, we've gotten feedback from teachers at Park Ave that they would like a little bit more professional development with the new math series program, the Ready Mathematics. So, and that will also help to pay for the consultants to come in. I'm almost done. A big portion of the grant is being used to purchase the Curriculum Associates Ready Mathematics. That was our big new core math program that you approved last year for the adoption. And then we do have some materials we need manipulatives in the classroom. So we budgeted it comes out to about $414 per instructional teacher. Not only all classroom teachers K-4, but special education teachers and academic interventionists. We want teachers to put the manipulatives in the kids' hands because they really learn better in that way in mathematics. And lastly, we have some money for consultant fees. Park Ave is actually in year 1 with Looney Math Consulting, and that this is going to pay for 12 days, 2 consultants because it's such a large school, for content building, coaching in math, data review, guidance and aligning the math curriculum, and also conversations about what best math practices. And lastly, we also, this will be for school year 2019, 2020? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying that number, that date. But it's the responsive classroom and strategies to prevent bullying. We're bringing that responsive classroom company in, and they will help to foster a positive community, integrate academics with teaching and social emotional skills to create conditions for positive behavior. That ends my explanation of the grant.
So as you can see in the grant, we are really combining a plan. We're looking at academics, we're looking at increasing teacher voice, we're looking at safety and bullying, and there's a strategic plan in each of these plans. I am so happy to inform you that TSV is for Turnaround Site Visit, and the Turnaround Site Visit is happening on December 17th, at the week of December 17th at the Bartlett High School. And the Monitoring Site Visit for MSV is happening for Park Ave sometime in February. We have not confirmed those dates. And I think we're off. And not to leave, I don't want to leave Webster Middle School out. Webster Middle School staff, the ILT team, and all of the staff are working on their turnaround plans. The SSOS consultants are still meeting and helping and guiding. They're just not eligible for funds because their scores came out of the 10th percentile. So we're moving forward. So thank you, Janice, for that.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
I have just a few more things on my report. I apologize for it being so long, but it is a busy place. I would like to let you know that, as you know, we've developed a nice partnership with Mafre, and over in those bags over there, there are well over $3,000 worth of holiday gifts for students at Park Avenue Elementary School, Webster Middle School, and Bartlett High School. Enough for 72 students. They will be distributed before the holidays to parents, and we want to publicly thank the group of Mafre elves, I called them. It was a company-wide mission, and the women that came and dropped the presents off had the best time shopping for our kids and spreading joy. And so, you know, that saying that I say all the time in Webster, kindness matters, it really is true. So thank you to Mafre. I want to let you know that I'm pleased that we had a group meeting with U Inc., the counselors that will be working in our district, 3 of them, with all of our counselors in the district to go over procedures, and we're hoping that they will be starting in January. And for the grandest news ever, to end my report, I am very pleased to let the school committee and the community know that we have been invited to attend the MSBA board meeting tomorrow, as we have been selected as a possible eligible district. Monique and I will be attending tomorrow, and we will are very hopeful that the board will accept us as a candidate. And after that, we will be staying for a Module 1 training on the eligibility. The eligibility period does last up to 270 days, and in that eligibility period, there's a number of things that we have to do. I won't read the list right now, but Monique and I are really excited to learn about that list. So we will keep you posted, and we're really pleased that after 6 long years that we are getting through the gate a little bit. And finally, to end my report, I would like to wish everyone a very happy, peaceful, and relaxing vacation and holiday with their families.
Any questions or comments from the committee? I do have a couple questions, but I'll get to those in a minute. And just to clarify, for those that may be watching, this is potentially for a renovation project of Bartlett.
Yes, it is.
And although at this point, the MSBA has recommended to their board, it is not a final decision until the board meeting tomorrow. So we are
Right.
still hopeful that that does occur.
And then after they accept us, there is that eligibility period.
I remember it well.
Yes.
Seems like only yesterday that, well, you probably saw the list, but let's celebrate first and then deal with the list.
We're gonna take those celebrations where we get them.
I do have a couple questions, which I'll get to in a minute, but if Mrs. Prangeli and Dr. Cushing don't mind, again, I know Mariah is extremely busy with academics and pit band, so I just wanted to jump to her section of the agenda and receive the student update from Mariah Belletti.
Thank you. I have a short report today. So for academics, all I have is that we are halfway through second quarter, so hopefully a lot of the students are pushing to end the semester with good grades. And I have a lot of club updates today. So DECA had their first, not so competition, but the first run or first experience with this year's DECA at Nichols, with many of its members getting great scores. They are also still collecting new winter items such as hats, gloves, scarves, mittens, and everything for families in need. And Diversity Tribe is also collecting non-perishable foods, snacks, and drinks for the month of December. And then NHS is also collecting the toys for the Toys for Tots that we do every year. And so lots of holiday spirit going around the school, which is great. Student Council did their annual Deck the Doors this past half day. So a lot of students stayed after and decorated a lot of the teachers' doors, and some are really funny and some are really cute. So they came out awesome. And then for athletics, winter sports have officially begun and games are picking up. And then we have upcoming events such as the winter concert on Monday, December 17th. And then we have the Bartlett Drama, who has their 2 performances of Just in the Nick of Time on Friday, the 14th, and Saturday, the 15th, both at 7 p.m. So hopefully a lot of students and faculty show up to that. And that concludes my report for today.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the committee? Mr. Renaud did share with me his door, which
Yeah, that one's really
was
funny.
pretty funny. And
Mr. Genesis' door is also really funny. It's like in the business wing, it's like the reindeers of, like there's one student and then faculty, and then I believe it's Mr. Genesis' daughter too, like as like the heads for the reindeer, so it's really cute.
it's important to get Sophie May in on the door.
Very.
Well, again, thank you for your report, and say hi to Mr. T for us.
Well, thank you.
Mrs. Gogan, just getting back to you. So the state is using the lowest 25% of students accounting for 60% of the accountability rating. I understand what they're trying to do, which is to make sure that districts are focusing on the lowest performing scores. But aren't they creating it, A, much more difficult for those districts that are already struggling to raise the level to where they want it, and B, unfairly, for lack of a better term, punishing lower socioeconomic school districts who historically have had, from numerous reasons, children that fit that category?
One could say that. I think the new accountability reports actually break the data down, as we shared with you,
Right.
so that you can see who the groups are. And I think they're really trying to show that the gaps are, and it's nationwide, this is everywhere, the gaps are for everyone. It's not just Webster, special education, second language learners, and ELL students, and that schools really need to be looking at programming to close those gaps. So I can't speak for the Department of Education or the philosophy behind the changing accountability system, but I can speak as an educator and tell you that the accountability system changes all the time because we don't meet the mark. So No Child Left Behind is replaced with ESSA, the old accountability system where all of our students didn't reach proficiency. They changed the accountability system. The bottom line for me, as an educator, and especially in this district, scores are one slice of a pie to look at students. I want to see students that are engaged in their learning, that are creative thinkers, which we saw tonight, that are making connections between content areas and applying what they're learning. Standardized tests, from my perspective, give us a snapshot of how well we, the adults, are doing at presenting material, and maybe the material isn't being retained by students because, quite frankly, schools have changed. And the student of today's brain has changed, and they take in information much differently than we do. And so, unfortunately, or fortunately, we as adults are stuck in a teaching pattern that we all learned. And so I think the real question is, what are we going to do about it? And I believe we are doing something about it here in Webster as a team. We're trying to get the teachers involved in the turnaround practices, and they are. And we're looking at research-based curriculum, and we're applying new practices. Our math program is a perfect example of that. We're tasking students to think critically in math, to explain what they're learning in a much different way than what they're used to. So will the end result be a high performance on a test? I don't know. Will this accountability system change? I would tend to think it might after going to that workshop. So I can't really answer your question because I didn't create the assessment system.
Well, as a non-educator who's not always the most politically correct guy,
Yeah.
I think it's incredibly unfair to have the lowest 25% of your students account. I understand you want to emphasize it. To me, that just seems like a very dramatic portion. A very small percentage of your students are affecting a very large portion of your accountability.
And this conversation is going to tie into what we have on the agenda tonight from the union and from what we have to bring. So that's the dilemma in education. And so I like to keep things simple. It's about making sure that every single student, regardless of where they come from, what color they are, that they have an opportunity to discover who they are and what their strengths and their talents are. And that's our job, is to create programs where kids can find success. So I'll get off my high horse.
I got you there, so that's okay.
And I wish I had the answers.
Well, actually, since you mentioned why our friends from the union are here this evening, and again, I understand everybody's busy and tired. If the members don't object, I'm actually going to jump to item A under new business, which is school committee statement of support regarding resolution for full funding of our public schools. Invite our friends to join us.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the school committee. I'm Ellen Jeffers, co-president of the Webster Educators Association. And this is Linda Millett, my co-president, sorry. And we're here tonight out of deep concern about the ability of Webster Public Schools to meet the needs of all the students we educate. My concern stems from the fact that the Webster Public Schools, like school districts across the Commonwealth, have been severely underfunded for many years. A bipartisan commission determined that Massachusetts public schools are underfunded by $1 billion annually because the formula used to calculate state aid for schools has not been properly revised or updated. The Massachusetts Budget and Policy Center calculated what districts would receive if the formula to determine Chapter 70 aid to schools were brought up to date using the recommendations of the commission that studied school funding. Webster Public Schools would receive an additional $2.9 million annually if the so-called foundation budget were fully funded. Imagine what we could do with nearly $3 million more each year to budget for our students. We could reduce class sizes, bolster social and emotional support for students, enhance professional development, make sure every classroom had sufficient supplies. We could do more for our English language learners. We could better support the needs of our special education students. We could find new opportunities for our accelerated learners. We could offer school employees more affordable healthcare options, which would help attract and retain the best possible educators. We could do all of these things and more. The legislature failed to take action to begin the process of updating the foundation budget formula, even though various proposals to do so were under consideration during the previous legislative session. Our students can no longer wait for their public schools to be fully funded in the manner that they were intended to be when the foundation budget was created in 1993 to ensure all students had access to the education they deserve. That's why we're asking you to pass the resolution calling on the legislature to implement a fully funded foundation budget. Please join your colleagues on school committees across the state that have already passed such a resolution, and together we can send a powerful message to Beacon Hill. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Well, first of all, thank you for bringing this important topic up this evening. You know, last year, as the MTA and the union folks, I'm sure, followed, there was a lot of momentum. We had Senator Fatman and Representative McKenna sitting right where you are. And we asked them to join us to make sure, A, they were publicly supporting it, and B, to get a sense of what was happening on Beacon Hill. There was movement in both the House budget and the Senate budget, and then mysteriously they go into conference committee and the cowards came out, in my opinion, with nothing. So I share your, can't tell, your anger and frustration. And hopefully, not only school committees, which doing what I expect we will do in a minute, and the MTA and administrators and everybody coming together, I really think, and I think I might have said this last year, this really needs to be a grassroots effort that includes the parents.
Absolutely.
And perhaps we can look at maybe after the new year and we get into the state budget cycle, putting together some meetings with, if parents are interested in really explaining this to them. Because without that grassroots effort, they can go into the conference committee and politically act in a cowardly fashion again, in my opinion.
Oh, Mr. Hurton, we're ready. So if you agree with the resolution, we would then ask, we have materials ready. If you allowed us to present them, have a table at school events such as sporting events, we have materials ready that will show parents what we're talking about, materials that show who they can contact in their legislature with phone numbers and what they can say. We're ready if you're ready.
Well, again, I'll leave that up to the superintendent and the building principals, because as you know, we don't get involved in operations. But by all means, you know, I personally, I can't imagine my colleagues in a moment not supporting something like this, because you don't have to have a PhD in accounting to realize that a formula that was generated in 1993 might be out of whack. And I think it's somewhat unrealistic, even though we would like it to happen, for all of it to get funded at once, but at least start the process. So I don't normally read what we're actually, because it takes a long time, but I think it's really important to reiterate some of what you just said. So I will entertain a motion that the Webster Schools Committee fully support the following resolution and support of full funding for our public schools. Whereas free public schools available to all students without exception are foundational to our democracy and are required by the state constitution. And whereas all of our students, no matter where they live, deserve high-quality public schools that teach the whole child and provide them with a rich school experience that addresses their academic, social, and emotional needs. Whereas the state's foundation budget formula, which determines state aid to each district, has been woefully out of date for years, thereby underfunding our districts by more than $1 billion with a B a year, dollars a year for essential educational services. And whereas an updated foundation budget formula would bring Webster up to $2,920,363 in additional state aid each year, allowing this district to move closer to providing all students with the education to which they are entitled as residents of the Commonwealth. And whereas the legislature failed to pass any foundation budget legislation in the last session, leaving districts, educators, and students without the funds necessary to support the schools our students deserve in every district in the state. Therefore, be it resolved that the Webster School Committee urges the legislature to approve and fully fund a new foundation budget formula by May 1st, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Jumped around a lot tonight, so going back to the superintendent's report and the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli. I'm sorry, you were done, Mrs. Gogan, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening, thank you. Tonight, the first item on my agenda is the food service report. As I was reviewing, I had realized I hadn't brought this forward at the end of FY18, which is okay. It takes a little time to close things out and get everything squared away. But as you can see, we are progressing in the right direction. So if we, what I've done with this report is I've taken a look at the actual revenues that have come in time. Over the past, you've been brought financial reports, and there's always an overlap of fiscal years. So we might not get June's revenue in until September at times. So that's not reflected in the appropriate year. So what I've done is I've gone back through FY16, and I've actually accounted for the actual revenues that are for the appropriate months. So everything, so there's a apples to apples kind of thing. Our
No pun
expenses
intended,
are-
that it's true.
Exactly. So we're really seeing the true, what's coming in and what's going out, so we're seeing our true profit loss for that time. So if you look at FY16, which was one of our first years on CEP, we knew we were taking a hit at that point. We ate about $78,000, another pun, did you get that? We ate about some. I got it. Okay, thank you, Ellen. So we were looking at a high deficit at that time, and then we worked really hard at our direct cert numbers, working through the program. We reapplied, because you can reapply at any time if your numbers go up. So we did that, and our numbers, our percentages increased from, at that time, I believe we were just making the cut at 42. Now we're up to 62%. So in FY17, we worked really hard at improving meal quality, taking a look at what we're serving, paper goods, and everything in general, just trying to get a grasp on our reimbursements, and that has nothing to do with the, that's for future. But we saw a $12,000 deficit back in FY17. Last year, we had a much better year. We ended with $4,000 in the hole overall. We had a really good year, and Ms. Nyland can speak to some of the consumables, but not only are we trying to bring in a lot more fresh fruit and veggies, we're using our commodities better, but we're also taking a look at our paper goods and the items that we're using. We know the cost is a little higher, but we're using some compostable stuff. We're looking at environmental, we're looking at recycling, we're looking at, which sometimes can increase your cost. So now we're just looking at how to manage that. So if we can break even every year, I'm happy. That's our goal, is to break even. We're not in this to make money. We're in this to give, to serve healthy meals to our students in the school. And if you notice, looking at this report also, Another area, you notice our adult sales are going up because of the improvement in the quality in food, the interest in the sandwich bars that we have coming, the salad bars that we've been doing. More staff are eating in our buildings now too. They're purchasing food. So that's a good thing. You know, as we do that, that's going to increase our revenue. It's going to help with our costs. So I think overall we're in good shape. If you look at FY19, we're on the plus, moving through the end of October. We're $19,000 to the good. So if we can maintain that, keep our cost level, watch our spending. Labor is labor, you know, we're running pretty lean on that. The one area we're looking at is breakfast in the classroom at the middle school. That's a new program this year. So we're working through that, getting it up and running, and then trying to figure out what's the prime level that we need to keep that running smoothly. Our food costs have gone up. That's going to happen. The more fresh foods that we serve, your costs are going to go up a little bit. But can we offset that with supplies and areas of labor and things like that by running lean? So I think we're in good shape. And I don't know if Ms. Nyland wants to talk about some of the areas that you're looking to save.
I think you just did a really good job. Thank you. I think there's some like accounting to be done because we do a lot of in-kind catering. So in other words, the food service budget absorbs a lot of the community outreach that we do, a lot of the in-kind catering, fundraising events. So that just kind of gets absorbed into a food cost and a labor cost. And there might be some way that we can at least identify those areas, I think, to even parse those numbers a little more. In terms of labor, we are pretty lean, like Ms. Perangeli said. In terms of food costs, overproduction is the thing that I'm focusing on. And of the 3 schools, there's really only one that I think is kind of behind the ball. That's where food cost really comes into play, is how much you produce and how much you waste. It's not really the cost of food, it's looking at your production records and producing exactly what you sold last time and making more if you have to, but not stockpiling. So it's that kind of thing that I'm working on the staff with. And like I said, I pretty much have it identified to one of 3 schools where that seems to be an issue. In terms of the entitlement, this year I spent 100% of the entitlement. So when I first started, the way that the planning works for school food, it's like a year plus. So when I came on, you know, I inherited entitlement that I didn't choose. So it was very hard to balance the menu with what I had. And then the second year I worked it out, I just stopped using some of the entitlement money that I knew I didn't want. So that year, I think we only got to 70%. But now I'm to the point where I spent 100% of our entitlement dollars, and the menu is planned around those entitlement items. So that's the way it's supposed to work. The entitlement dollars, money comes in, the items come in, they go on the menu, they get served. So it's really just starting to work that way. It's kind of a long, slow process in school food, and part of that is the planning, but I feel like now it's working the way it's supposed to work. The fresh fruits and vegetables are and aren't more expensive because on the savings side, if we're purchasing local, for instance, through the Worcester Food Hub, and we're getting in-season cheapest prices we can get, cheaper than sometimes even DOD Fresh or our traditional broadline produce distributor. So that's kind of a balance. It's not always more expensive. We did cut back on canned fruit, for instance, and I may actually sneak some of that back in because, there is the theory that we really just want kids to eat fruit. So if they have an option to have fresh or canned, not ever only canned, then at least they'll eat what they're taking. So that's kind of a learning process for me. I was going somewhere with that. The entitlement. Anyways, we're almost there where that's how the entitlement's supposed to work. It comes in, you put it on the menu, it goes out. The disposables, these compostable disposables, and that is the purpose of directing these students at Bartlett towards the one remaining dishwasher that we do have, because I'm tired of the disposables argument. You know, the compostable stuff does cost more. Right now, the food service budget is absorbing that. I have discovered that there is grant funding, that some districts receive grant funding for purchasing that, which I did not know. So that is something that I am going to pursue. But there's a whole nother, you know, path to go down with, if we're purchasing them, they cost more because they're compostable and we're not composting them. So that's, you know, finding a facility where we can take them and starting sorting in the cafeteria. And that is all possible. And that's something that I hope the farm to school team at the high school will kind of start to lead us down that path. So I understand where everything is. It kind of makes sense to me. And I'm just glad that overall, we seem to be going in the right direction. And see what happens this year. Just keeping an eye on labor and keeping an eye on the school or schools that seem to have trouble with overproducing and wasting food.
And it is kind of a double-edged sword where she talks about the dishwasher, because I was at MASBO today, and I was sitting at a table with a few colleagues, business managers, and there was one of the, from like an Airmark or Aramark.
Exo or somebody?
Yeah, was sitting there, he's at kitchen equipment, and we got on the subject of dishwashers, and exciting talk around the table, and the business manager was saying, well, I got to get a dishwasher, and do you know how much these cost? It's about $25,000. You can get this, you can get that. We started talking about the disposable argument versus the dishwasher argument. And the director of the food service says, well, it's a double-edged sword, because then you start talking about chemicals, then you start talking about water, then you start talking about, he said, so it's really, you know, it's either way. It's what works for you, what works for your district, what, you know. So cost-wise, when you look at increased water usage, when you look at chemicals that you need to add, when you need to look at, you know, he was talking about having to dig up the drainage in his floor, and he was going through, it was a pretty major project, turning into a major project. And he was trying to weigh, which way do I go? Is this even worth fixing? Do I stay with the disposables? So, you know, it might cost us a little more. We might say it cost us a little more, but in the long run, is it going to really cost us more money? So, but overall, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah.
I'm confident. I think this year we're keeping a close eye on things. Our federal reimbursement and state reimbursement is consistently going up. Very happy with the meal quality. We're always getting very good feedback about the quality of our food. Parents seem to be happy. I haven't heard any complaints from parents, and any feedback that I get is positive feedback about a food service program. So I think Ms. Nyland's doing a great job. Thank you.
Getting there.
Any questions on food service?
Any questions or comments? Just one quick, I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when your predecessor was presenting this idea, I believe the goal at the time was to try to break even by year 3, which we have come very close to that, so.
Absolutely. I think we're certainly headed in the right direction. And then the next item on my agenda is the ESSEC report cards, and this is just a quick update that I presented a couple weeks ago. After our meeting, I sat through a webinar with the state, and we talked about the report cards coming out. They updated us that they will be coming out in December. The list that you have that was put in front of you was put in our Dropbox just recently. They sent it out to business managers to look at. They are going to be creating reports around this. They wanted to give us the heads up that initially on the reports is going to reflect FY17 data. So it's not going to reflect current data. They still don't have all the end-of-year reports in. They told us that today. They still haven't collected them all. So the reports are going to come out with old data, and then they're going to look to update them about 2 times a year as reports are filed, completed, data's updated, and numbers on the state level are updated. They said they'll do that. So what you see, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but what they're doing now is they're coming out with reports by school, financial reports by school that show your dollars spent per student, and it breaks it down to local funds and then funds spent for federal and state funds. So as you can see, just by looking, if you look at Park Ave, the total spent per student in FY17 was $13,202 per student. And then it breaks it down into local funds and then federal funds. So there was $12,180 spent on local, $1,022 spent on federal. So total dollars spent district, that is overall on the district. That's our per pupil student expenditure. And then the next row shows, if you go down, it breaks it down to the state. So the state is at $15,449, and we were at $13,202 for Park Ave. So I won't go through everyone, but this was just preliminary. They're going to be coming out with a neater format with graphs and stuff, so it's a more visual. But they just wanted to give us a heads up to look at the data in case there's any questions when it's released. And those should be coming out very soon. They told us today that it was going to be released in December. We're in December, so. Any questions on that?
Any questions or comments from the?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, the next item is the principal report. Peter Cushing, Bartlett High School Principal. Good evening, Dr. Cushing.
Good evening. How is everyone this evening?
We're good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Before I jump into the items on the list, I do want to mention that connected with the work that Janice has done, the instructional leadership team at Bartlett really took on a distributive leadership role last week in leading the faculty meeting. What we're doing in advance of the AIR report, the American Institute for Research, when that comes out in January, is we're trying to identify things on our own that we really need to focus on. What are the immediate wins, as Janice mentioned, and we need to do some affinity protocols around that to really make sure that we're identifying things that are important to the staff as a whole. So the ILT did work on that 2 weeks ago. We started working to refine that today, and I'll continue that next week as well as an ILT. But I have to say they did a really great job working with the staff. Our last ILT meeting before today went 30 minutes over, and people didn't really feel the need to leave. They were really engaged in the work and digging in on a lot of those topics. And I think that's where we need to be. We need to have those difficult conversations. But it's really exciting to have this grant and the work that Janice did to make that happen. So moving in today, Superintendent Gogan has built a really great relationship with MAPFRE, and particularly Linda Johnson and Lee. I'm blanking on her last name at this moment. But Linda and Lee really did a great job today. The CEO of MAPFRE USA, Alfredo, came and spoke to the students, which was really phenomenal. He's from Spain. He really did an amazing job speaking to our students, gave them some really great advice, some really great pointers. He's a man who's lived in the Philippines for 5 years. He basically did everything his company has asked him to do. Lived in London, was back living in Madrid when they approached him and said, can you go run the United States operation 4 years ago? And so he provided some really great information, gave some good information about MAPFRE, that it's basically 65% owned by the MAPFRE Foundation. And their work, the main thrust of their work isn't insurance, it's the charitable work that the insurance agency, that the insurance business helps drive. And so as part of that, we were invited about probably a month and a half ago now. I think it was on October 30th. We had a teleconference to really talk about ways that MAPFRE and Bartlett could work together. And Superintendent Gogan had a great idea of building a leadership academy. And right now, after the day is done, we're really going to be looking at how do we move this forward with these students and with other students. And what happened today was really great. We went to MAPFRE for 9 o'clock. Students were partnered up with about 7 managers, 8 managers in 6 groups. They worked on building SMART goals. They worked on identifying what's important to them. They worked on a lot of stuff with some presentations by the managers to the whole group, some small group work, the ability to tour their human resources facility that is really undergoing this change of collaborative workspace. And it was interesting, moved from one area of the building D which was all these high cubicles and high fields, and then you moved into the human resources, which is kind of a test site for altering the workspace. The ability to have standing and sitting workstations, areas for private phone calls for family needs and different stuff like that. These 3 almost telephone booths. And I think it's these partnerships and partnerships that we're going to be building with other businesses. That was another thing we discussed in the ILT today about ways to get our students involved in the biotech fields and local companies in Webster or Dudley that we can partner with, and then further into Worcester. When you talk about experiential learning, Superintendent Gogan, it's really important that we're building these relationships and building these connections for our students. So that was a really great day. They provided for every student and myself and the superintendent a little notebook that is actually emblazoned with the Bartlett B logo, as well as Fondation Mafre. So I'll pass that down to the superintendent. They also gave every student a red slingback with a T-shirt as well. They provided the students with copious amounts of food from Panera, enough that we brought back and fed the entire cast of the drama club, and there may have been things left over from that as well, because there was an incredible amount of food. So that's the Mafre Leadership Institute. We had 23 students. We had initially identified 25. One student moved to another district, wasn't able to participate, and one student, despite a lot of effort getting permission slips, unfortunately, only one student did not return their permission slip. Students participated in a survey of their skill set this morning, and what we tried to do in identifying students a few weeks ago was to identify those students who are your wallflowers, who might not be your National Honor Society, who might not be your big sports people, but I think one of those things we need to look at is how do we spread the wealth as we move forward, and the skill sets that were really touched upon today were quite appropriate for high school students. So, and if anyone knows of any other businesses or community partners, we are most open to these partnerships. I want to provide you a quick fall sports recap. I know it's a few weeks on. We're well into, I'd say we're into the winter season. We're not well into the winter season yet. But there were a couple of things that really need to be brought up. Our cheerleading squad was the Swickle champs and as well as the district champs. They put on an absolutely phenomenal pep rally. I would say the best I've ever seen in my career as both an educator or an administrator. It was absolutely incredible how that gym came together and how students were actively engaged. I've seen in other places where seniors like pep rally, I'm getting dismissed and going home, whereas this was seniors on their feet the entire time, and that's pretty awesome. That led into the Thanksgiving Day Frozen Bowl, where we brought it to Southbridge in a hard way. I think we made a really great decision. There was a lot of thought that went into keeping the game that day. There were some schools who changed it and then changed it back, and there were a lot of schools but what we did was we partnered with our town, and we got them to bring up 2 burn barrels. I donated 4 boxes of hand warmers to hand out. The school supported us by purchasing propane and a couple of propane heaters for the sideline. We also had Herbie and Mike, 2 of our custodians. They're manning the burn barrels that kept the band, especially from freezing up. And it was really, I think, a great day when you look back on it. And it wasn't that cold until about the 3rd quarter. But I also want to thank Al for running around and getting a lot of the stuff when it comes to the pallets and different things like that. And it was really great, I'd say, community effort to get the field prepared. The field would not have been ready on Wednesday night because of how waterlogged it was. And the town for coming together around those burn barrels and other items that the police helped us get, setting up those right connections to make sure that we were talking to the right people. The soccer team, the boys soccer team, were underdogs, not once but twice. They were underdog winners against Blackstone Valley and against Quabbin. They both traveled. They traveled on the road to those games and really did a great job defeating those teams. And then they fell to Nipmuc, the eventual state champions. But I'll tell you, Taven in goal and a lot of the other kids played really amazingly well and really did a phenomenal job on an exceptionally cold night as well. But they really did an absolutely great job. And the following day, we were notified that our soccer team received the officiating award for sportsmanship from the Officials Organization of Central Massachusetts for soccer. And so Mr. Renaud and the players need to be commended for that. As well, all of our student athletes participated in a manner befitting them and had no infractions this year that would negate us through the fall season receiving the MIAA Sportsmanship Award. That's an annual award that game misconducts and other infractions can cause, from one individual, can cause the entire school to lose that. So at this point, we've done a great job moving forward to receive that award this year and look forward to that continuing through the winter season. All right. And finally, the upcoming drama performance. This, as Mariah mentioned, this Friday and Saturday night. We look forward to seeing you there. The students are working exceptionally hard on preparing the lobby, on putting up the sets, on participating and practicing, being there late nights this week, as is always show prep week. So really want to make sure that we're supporting them as best as possible. I'll be there Friday night myself and really looking forward to it. I guess lastly, I'm really excited to be working with the people on this team, but it was great to have Ellen Nyland here today because she really brings a great vision to the food services. And we've talked numerous times about ways that we can rethink, even without a renovation, but ways that we can rethink the Bartlett cafeteria and ways that we can listen to students and what they want, trying to live within the guidelines, but also making sure that the amount of food waste that we see sometimes, trying to find ways to mitigate that with milk being thrown away or fruit or other things being thrown away. She's really a visionary on trying to do different things and to bring about a change in that cafeteria. And it's really exciting. Recently, just last week on the Professional Development Day, Project Bread was here, and Chef Vanessa was teaching them how to prepare drumsticks and chicken wings. The one that I was able to sample was a Korean barbecue flavor, and there were other flavors as well that are slipping me right now. But the Korean, I mean, really just great opportunities to try to bring meals to our students that they may not, generally speaking, have. I'd like to see us bring filet mignon or New York strip steaks, but we'll have to wait and see. So thank you very much for your time and your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee? Let me just, again, publicly thank Mrs. Gogan for her efforts over the last year and a half of really developing a wonderful partnership with MAPFRE and other folks in the Webster community. And I really like the selection process that you used in determining the students, in that it wasn't just, and these kids are great, obviously, but the fact that you purposely reached out for kids who probably may not have ever had that type of experience before in their life. I mean, most kids probably haven't, but especially a lot of our kids will go to Nichols and experience something similar, or they'll go to Leominster and experience something similar, but
No, we were very clear on that. When Linda and I were working, we wanted to develop a new program for students that often don't get selected for things. And today, when I spoke to the students, we were very clear to tell them that they were all selected because each one of them possessed leadership skills. And the journey of discovering those skills is what we wanted to talk about. And I stayed for a while, and all of the students opened up and started talking, and it was a very collaborative effort. And we're really hoping that we can make a mentor program out of this and get other businesses involved, because learning can happen outside of the classroom. And today, what happened today was great. I heard from Linda afterwards, and they're equally as pleased to be contributing and doing things with the kids. It's a win-win. So we are looking forward to doing that with other businesses.
Well, again, thank you, and thank you for your presentation, Dr. Cushing. Enjoy the little ones in a couple weeks. Well, let's hope Santa brings that. Moving on with the agenda, we jump to old business. First item under old business is FY20 budget update.
We are continuing to work away. We have met a few times over the past week. We are reviewing needs of the district. We are looking at a couple of different budget options, preparing. And we will be ready for the school committee on January 8th. We were supposed to have a meeting tomorrow, but we have a much more important meeting that we need to attend. But we have another one scheduled, I believe, for Thursday. We're hoping to put the finishing touches on it, and then we will sit down and start to prepare our presentation for the January 8th meeting. And I hope that you will be happy with the budget that we put forward. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, next item under old business is monthly report on fundraising applications. Again, per school committee policy, we do not approve any fundraisers, but we do review them in a public fashion so that folks in the community know what's going on. The only one for this meeting is the National Junior Honor Society Candy Cane Reindeer Grams. So hopefully that was a successful fundraiser for Mrs. Foley. And again, these are published on the district website. Moving on to new business, the next item under new business is approval of transfer of 2 vacant paraprofessional positions to ABA positions. Mrs. Gogan.
Yes, we would just like to inform the board and the committee and ask your permission. We have different needs, and so we'd like to take 2 vacant positions and make them ABA paraprofessionals over at Park Avenue Elementary School. And there is a letter detailing the request from our Director of Student Services in your packet.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the transfer of 2 vacant paraprofessional positions to 2 ABA positions at Park Ave.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is approval of additional 1.2 FTE ABA positions at Park Avenue Elementary School.
Yes, we would like to request the school committee's permission to hire an additional 1.2 FTE ABA paraprofessional positions due to additional needs of our students that are coming into our schools. I am pleased to let you know that we do have some savings, some personnel savings this year so this is not above and beyond our budget.
And these
This
are
will be
obviously
absorbed.
students, I'm guessing, that have moved in with IEPs that require, or IEPs that have been developed since the start of the year,
These are students that require ABA needs.
per their IEP.
Yes.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the additional 1.2 FTE ABA positions at Park Ave.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is discussion of districts challenging the foundation formula, quote, tale of our cities, unquote.
Okay.
This sounds like a fun discussion.
It's an interesting discussion. It actually tails off of what the union was speaking about. As you probably have heard, Worcester and Holyoke and Springfield have been leaders in trying to challenge the foundation budget. Superintendents across the state recently met with business managers. Monique and I attended the meeting really to look at the foundation budget. It's not just urban districts that are being affected by the foundation budget. Thus, the MTA is asking you to sign the resolution. We would like to get involved with that because the formula doesn't work. It's broken. As Monique will be sharing with you, and as they inferred, there's an extra $2 million if the foundation formula does get changed. Will that happen? I'm not sure, but I'm here tonight to ask you if permission for us as a district to get involved with the larger population of superintendents and business managers across the state to have a grassroots kind of campaign. The Central Mass superintendents will be hosting an informational evening on January 8th at Fitchburg State in Kent Hall, I think at 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, we have a school committee that same evening. I believe there are 2 other informational evenings happening across the state with other superintendents and business managers to get the word out. I believe there will be more evenings for us to attend. So I wanted to bring that to your attention and actually ask your permission of having us get involved. Do you want to share with them?
So this was a huge topic today at our MASBO, actually. That's
Can you
the-
see that? Can you guys see that? I'll shut the light.
Thank you.
So MASBO's involvement, they're working collectively with the business managers to look at funding across the state. And what the point they're really trying to get across is that this is not just a urban problem. This is not an urban community problem. It's not a small district urban community. It affects everybody in the state of Massachusetts. And they're really focusing on the gaps. That's key of what they're trying to point out, because there are districts that are getting more than the minimum contribution, but overall, everybody is seeing a gap in the amount of spending from the foundation. So they're focusing on 4 areas. The first area is they're looking at employee benefits. The second area is special education. The third area was ELL. And then they were looking at low income, the minimum contribution. So if you were to just take a look at the first, let's just look at employee benefits. On the left side, you'll see our foundation budget. This is what the foundation budget says we should be spending on employee benefits, $2,069,000. If you look to the right, you'll see our actual spending for employee benefits is $4.9 million. So what you're seeing here is a $2.8 million gap in spending that's being made up from the district. If you look at our special education costs alone, you take your foundation budget, which is here, and from the foundation, I took our special ed cost, our in-district and our out-of-district cost, and I backed out the employee benefits because that was included in the top category. That puts us at 2.1 million that the foundation budget says we should be spending. Our actual spending, this is before circuit breaker, is $6.4 million. So we're looking at a $4.2 million gap in special education costs that the district is picking up, that we're not getting from foundation. If you look at other spending gaps, which they're calculating out, we lump these all together: administration, professional development, instructional equipment, and operations and maintenance. If you look at the foundation budget, this is what they're saying we should be spending. This is our actual spending. We're spending 1.7 million less than what we should be spending. Why? Because our other category areas, we've got to make up for it someplace, so what takes the hit? Usually your maintenance and PD and instructional equipment. That doesn't mean we're not doing professional development. This is looking at local spending. It doesn't include your federal grants. But even if you were to include them in, there's still a major gap in the spending. So overall gap in spending is $5.3 million if you look at it as a whole across the district. And that's not something that just an urban school is going to see. That's something that everybody across the state is going to see. So they have, put out the models. You saw the model that the teachers union presented today. I know the business managers are, along with the superintendents and MASS, are really building the grassroots efforts. They're going to be presenting across the state, three presentations happening at the same time in different parts of the state on the same thing that focuses on local areas. Their goal today was to say the tale of 100 cities, not the tale of 4 cities, not the tale of our cities, the tale of 100 cities. You know, some of the questions that we saw at MASBO is, you know, people out in western part of the state where, you know, I'm just one small little town. You know, how can I bring people to the table? How can I get the word out there? And, you know, the response is that if, we'll take that one little town, because if there's 16 of you in an area, that's going to make up a difference. We're going to get the word out there. They had the Mass Budget Commission there to speak to us today, and they feel there is movement. It's a $1 million increase over 4 years to make up. You know, if you look at this by 2023, do they think we're going to get it all? No, but they think at this point in time that the interest is there and that it's gotten people's attention and that the legislature and the senators and everybody is listening, and they're just encouraging school districts and school communities, school committees to reach out to their legislatures and community to try and support the efforts to bring that understanding.
It's really a social justice issue, to be honest with you. We're not funding education, and the results of the MCAS are showing us that. So we're leaving particular groups of kids behind. So originally when Worcester and Holyoke and Springfield came out, they came out as the urban districts. And the story was it's just affecting the urban districts. But the reality is it's not just affecting the urban districts, it's everybody. And so superintendents are really trying to get their school committees to help advocate for this. We'd love to be a part of this, as you can see. And what we talked about at the meeting is we're in a position, superintendents and business managers, of playing a shuffle game. You're moving money around to what is the highest priority this year? What is the highest priority next year? And when you do that, there's no consistency of support. And so the result is students lose. And that's the story that we're trying to tell. It's an equity story. And all kids matter. And public education is, the funding has to be looked at. So we'd like to ask your permission to let us partake in that.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Are you I know it, and again, I read these blurbs every once in a while, primarily from the MASC Twitter feed. Are you looking to join a formal lawsuit? Or are you looking to,
Yeah.
because at one time, these larger districts were considering, and they still may be, filing a formal suit. And I think that's what actually created the changes in 93,
Yeah.
was an actual.
I'm not sure what position we would take on that, but we want to be involved with spreading the news about the foundation formula and the reality of what's happening in Webster. And I think that would be our job. There is talk of a lawsuit with the larger urban communities, but we only attended one meeting, so we've just been asked to join this momentum.
What is the desire of the committee?
Are you looking for a motion to approve this request? If that's the desire?
I believe so, just for a public support, correct?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to publicly support participating in this movement.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And again, you know, certainly what we stated earlier, I think, by all means, we support all of you in your efforts to try to get the legislature in and the governor to do what we believe is right. So hopefully, with all the efforts of all the parties involved, there'll be a more fair result when this budget is passed as opposed to what happened last time. There's a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Good luck.
We're not doing it alone.
I know.
We have enough to do.
Next item on the agenda is approval of therapeutic animal coming to Park Avenue School as it applies to policy IMG.
Yes. As you know, we have a very special principal over at Park Avenue Elementary School. And she has and would like to surprise her students on the day that the Bartlett High School students are coming over to perform the play, which I believe is December 18th, by bringing her trained pony. And hang on one second. Robin runs a farm, and on her farm she has animals, and she brings in children who have experienced trauma to see her animals. Her farm is called the Tender Mercies Farm. She has a pony, which I will pass a picture to you, and this is her granddaughter, that she would like to bring in, maybe dress him up as a reindeer after the kids see the play. And his name is Tristan. He's 22 years old. He's a Shetland gelding pony, and he's brought many joys to many children. He is the camp mascot for her Tender Mercies Farm, and he is gentle and kind, and he loves being groomed and spoiled and given treats. Tristan's been part of her family and her work with children for the past 12 years, and it is officially her granddaughter's pony. Her granddaughter has ridden him and shown him until she outgrew him, and now he is enjoying a semi-retired life as a couch potato, eating all day with his Shetland pony mare buddy, Princess Belle, and Halflinger Storm. They share the farm with 4 miniature donkeys, 2 miniature horses, horse foals, and 3 goats. This is out of character for me to go out on a stretch and let a horse come into school. And I want to be open with you about that, but I am advocating to allow Robin to bring her pony into school. I trust that she will keep the pony safe, and there are permission slips that I have here for you to take a look at that will go home. We will definitely be checking with the nurse to make sure no students are allergic, and they will have to have permission to pet the pony. Otherwise, they can see the pony. But I think for the holiday season, this would be a really wonderful thing to happen. And because it's different, I want to make sure that the school committee is supporting it and aware of it. But I am, so. And these are
Just
the
also, I did reach out to the insurance company to double check.
Yes, and we did.
I did speak with them.
all the
and
planning
He's like,
goes
you're
around."
not riding it, right? And I'm like, no, it's just going to be for the kids to go up and pet and, maybe a picture, but I said, no riding.
And obviously, Mrs. Goga, one reason you're bringing it to our attention is our policy IMG does prohibit animals in school unless they are specifically service animals, typically guides or assistant dogs, as well as law enforcement dogs. And so the request from you would, in this one instance, would be going against our policy for the most part. I understand it's a service pony, but I just want
A
to.
large service animal.
Yeah. Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mrs. Gogan, do you know how Mrs. Parmley is going to, I guess, present the pony?
She has done this in other schools before, and we've had multiple conversations about this. Because at first I was like, no, that's simple, no. She walks him down the hallway, the kids can see him. It really depends. She may, if he's going to be a guest appearance at the end of the play, he may just go across the stage. The idea is to bring joy.
She did tell me that she usually, when she presents, she usually has the pony, and Gil might be there, her husband, or somebody else, and they stand at the rear of the pony so kids can't go behind in case the pony were to back up, which it usually doesn't. She says it's very docile. But she said they take all the proper precautions of standing there with the pony to make sure that it goes off without a hitch.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
What if, oh,
Oops,
sorry.
you
Oh,
want-
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mrs. Navarro.
What if there is a student that has an allergy?
If there are a number of students, I think that Mrs. Promley would rethink this, but we're hoping that there aren't any. They may not be able to be close to the pony. Depending on the severity of the allergy, you may be able to be in the room but not close. It depends on, so we'd have to look at that.
I just think it's an amazing opportunity for children to be around an animal that they may not otherwise have the opportunity to be around. And it's so soothing to just, be able to touch or pet a pony. So I think it's a great idea.
Completely off course. That's the best definition of retirement I've ever heard.
I know.
What is the desire of the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to deviate from our animals in school policy for this one occasion.
Second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the therapeutic animal coming to Park Ave as it applies to policy IMG. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, I am going to jump to the top of the agenda and entertain a motion to enter into executive session according to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to discuss strategy for negotiations with union personnel with the intent of coming back into open session once the executive session is finished.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, we will enter into executive session again with the intent of coming back to open session. So having exited executive session, we are now returning to open session, continuing with the new business. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the Administrative Assistants Association contract 2018 to 2021. Mrs. Gogan.
We have,
And I'm sorry, just for the record, I don't believe I mentioned this. When we went into executive session, the purpose of the executive session was to discuss the negotiations that had occurred with the Administrative Assistants Association contract. Sorry for interrupting.
and we're bringing that before you to see if you will approve that tentative agreement.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, what is the desire of the committee? Since there are no motion nor second to be had, I just want to confirm that no one on the committee would like to make a motion to approve the Administrative Assistants Association contract as presented. Hearing none, that agenda item does not pass. We will move on with the review, transfer, signing of bills, payrolls, and vouchers. We do have a request from Park Ave Elementary School for a transfer of $4,508.80 from the Park Ave Webster 5 savings account to the Park Ave Webster 5 checking account. I'm sorry, First Federal checking account, and I will entertain a motion to approve that transfer.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Before we adjourn, I just want to take a moment and offer a belated Happy Hanukkah to all of our Jewish students and faculty, and wish everybody in the district a Merry Christmas and a safe and Happy New Year. The good news is we only have one meeting in December, so our next meeting will be Tuesday, January 8th. And again, I wish everybody a safe and happy holiday, and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair,
Mrs. Blythe.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Hearing no discussion. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, meeting adjourned.